Hello and welcome to Take the Black, your fantasy and sci-fi podcast that goes deep into the world of Westeros, a Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, and right now especially House of the Dragon, because season 3 is airing on HBO and we are nerding out about it every single time they drop a new episode. I am one of your hosts, Daniel Roman, the editor of winteriscoming.net, and I'm psyched, as always, to be joined by Marq Nettles of House of Nettles. How you doing, Mark?
It was a lot. It was a lot this week in Westeros. Dude. But I do want to say I was surprised by the rank, for episodes 1 through 4, the ratings for those on IMDb, how low episodes 3 and 4 were. I was like, oh, wow, from the people.
Yeah, I think the one that surprises me the most, because I didn't love episode 4 myself personally, but I think 3 really surprises me, because I think, as painful as it is to watch Rhaenyra keep making mistakes, episode 3 was a banger, and it was unique. They've never done anything like it in Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon, and I think it deserves to be rated a little bit higher than it is. But the people have spoken. If there's not dragons, they don't care. This is my takeaway, because 1 and 2 are just way higher than those other two.
Yeah, they definitely want to hear somebody yell Dracarys, and I think that's keeping some of the episodes maybe artificially inflating the ranking because we got some fire.
Yeah, I think you may be right about that. And just for reference here for people listening, so as of right now, here are the ratings of the first 4 episodes on IMDb, which is, maybe not like an all-encompassing source, but studios look at it, so we can look at it and have opinions too. So the first episode, Salt and Sea, Fire and Blood, The Battle of the Gullet, rated 9.2 out of 10. Probably pretty fair. The Gullet was pretty amazing. Queen's Landing, episode 2, is rated even higher at 9.4 out of 10. Which is the highest rated episode of the entire series, I'm pretty sure. I think when it came out, it was even 9.5. It set a new record for the show. Then Rhaenyra, here's the dip. The dip starts. Rhaenyra Triumphant, episode 3, the bottle episode in King's Landing, 8.3 out of 10. A whole 1.1 lower than Queen's Landing. And then Tumbleton, episode 4, 7.6 out of 10. So we're on the decline here. And the big question is that going to continue? Is all hope lost for us faithful viewers as well as House Targaryen?
I think there's a lot of people just based off that. I've seen people say it. I've been saying it. If Game of Thrones came out today, I don't know how high the rankings would be in hindsight, because I do feel like episodes. Of course, episode 3 was very different, but especially episode 4. Very much so Game of Thrones vibes. It felt like I'm watching a television show again instead of an expanded movie, a film. So I think it might be a little lower in hindsight.
Yeah, totally. And, you have to keep in mind, too, I don't want to say the types of viewers who go and rate on IMDb, but, episode 4, I will say, for the particularly precious book fans, was a lot to swallow at times, because they made some choices, I think, in episode 4. But 3, I think that's an all-timer. When we look back on House of the Dragon, that's going to be an episode that's pretty much always going to be in the conversation, because it's so different and unique, and they really swung for the fences. I think you're right. Late in Thrones run, the spectacle episodes became so well known, so huge and massive. Everybody talked about the Battle of the Bastards, things like that. That's, we forget that those. Well, we don't forget, but I think the general, hive mind of people watching this maybe forget that those first 4 seasons, they were pretty quiet on the whole. There were a lot of episodes where maybe somebody got stabbed in an alleyway, but mostly it was people in rooms talking, and we loved it and ate it up. So yeah, I think that's fair. Would it be received as well today? I honestly don't know.
I guess I'm happy. I'm happy we don't have to know, but I am happy we get to talk about episode 5 from this season.
Yeah, so let me ask you, because we are recording this from slightly in the past, to just watched episode 5, presumably, because this episode comes out Sunday night directly after the episode, which is when new episodes of Take the Black come out during the on season for House of the Dragon. The IMDb ratings, obviously, not out for episode 5 yet. Do you think this will be another lower rated one like Tumbleton, or do you think it will reverse the trend and start to climb back up again?
I think it's going to reverse the trend. I don't know if it's going to go above, what was it? Queen's Landing was number 3. No, that was number 3.
Queen's Landing, it's episode 2, and it's the highest rated one of the bunch, 9.4.
Which one was after that?
3 is Rhaenyra Triumphant, 8.3.
8.3. I don't think it's going to go above that, but I do think it is going to be higher than Tumbleton. So
yeah,
yay for that. The fans on IMDb, they don't know what they want. That's the problem. Listen to us, people.
Yeah, I think that's right. Listen to us when you do your IMDb ratings. Make sure you watch Take the Black first. Take it into account, because we will tell you this was a really good episode, and if you're gonna review bomb it, you may live in infamy and shame and have to live with that. And we don't want that for you. So yeah, I agree with you. I do think it will be higher rated than Tumbleton. I don't know about Queensland, or see, now I'm doing it. Rhaenyra Triumphant, which shout out to the title for that one, because that's a book chapter title, Rhaenyra Triumphant. Yeah. I love that they chose that. But we will see though, because I do think, this episode has gotten a lot of hype from people who watched it early, myself included. I posted about this on Twitter. I've seen that post make the rounds on Reddit. So I know people are discussing what could be coming in episode 5. They have been discussing. And now that it's out, we're going to talk about this thing in detail, because this was a huge episode. But it wasn't, I say huge episode, it wasn't like the Battle of the Gullet. It wasn't like Queen's Landing, where it's like, this was a game changer episode that's, had a massive event from the book, like that they were adapting a 30-minute battle. It wasn't that. It was just like it felt to me like a good old-fashioned classic episode of Game of Thrones, done really, really, really well, where like there are all these plots and schemes, assassinations are happening. There's like this cat and mouse game happening in the Riverlands. We're spending time with lots of different characters. There are really good duos of characters who we maybe haven't spent a ton of time with that get to really shine here. I'll go on a limb. I think this is my favorite episode of the season so far. How did you feel about it? Because I've been dying to talk to you about this.
I feel like since episode 3, they've all been very good. These are probably some of the best for me for House of the Dragon. Like I feel like the political game is happening. Things are happening in the room. Looking at the scenes, the plot, somebody says something in the early episode and how it affects something, or how our characters interact with somebody else at a later part. This has been, I feel like, I said this last week, but I do feel like we're back. I'm back.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think, thinking back on House of the Dragon, season 1 is almost kind of its own thing, because it was so different, I think, than what season 2 and 3 are. It had the time jumps. It had Paddy Considine giving his lifetime best performance he'll probably ever do. But once we got into the more traditional throne style, like we're at war now, and we've got all this political maneuvering as we take to the battlefield and stuff. I do agree with you. I feel like season 3 is definitely a huge step above season 2 on the whole. Like there's still some standout dragon things from season 2 that I don't think season 3 has topped yet. Rook's Rest, the Red Sowing, like the effects in those episodes were just astounding. Yeah. I'm waiting for a certain thing that may happen later at Tumbleton, because I have a feeling they may one up themselves. But in terms of like the tightness of the politicking, like the plot's doing interesting things. Rhaenyra's not cooped up on Dragonstone, not really doing much. Like there's just a lot more going on. It's a much more interesting television show, I think, this season. And especially in this episode, where stuff just hits the fan all over the place. So let me toss it to you, because I have these in a rough order on the outline, but we can talk about it in whatever order you want. Where do you want to start? Where do you want to start with this episode?
Ooh, I mean, I honestly, I mean, I love talking about, just because we haven't seen him a lot, going to Harrenhal and talking about Aemond One Eye, just to kind of get a little dab of taste in there. Because I mean, it picks off right with where we last saw. Last episode we saw Criston Cole go there, demanding, "Hey, where's Aemond One Eye?" Alice tells us he is somewhere far away. He's just not here in Harrenhal. Was it a lie? Yes.
Yeah, of course. Of course it was a lie. I mean, or was it because he was dreaming? Was he far away? Maybe metaphysically.
Yeah, he spiritually wasn't there in the scene. But even more interesting, when he woke up talking about his brother his burning while he's dragging him down. I'm like, oh, is that because you're having some regret? Are you going on a spiritual journey like Daemon was in the previous season? Probably hopefully a little more condensed. We don't need all the dreams.
Yeah, I feel like it's funny because before this, I know a lot of people wondered, like, where's Aemond? He basically spent a quarter of the season off screen before this. But I think the alternative would have been seeing what Aemond was dreaming the whole time. And I think it was smart that they just left him off screen. They brought him back here. He wakes up having these nightmares. Did you notice the audio during the nightmare?
No.
So when he wakes up, they had the sound file of Tom Glencarney screaming from Rook's Rest when he gets hit with the dragon flame. That, like, it plays like very eerily in the background as Aemond is waking up. So, like, chef's kiss, like, great choice. And yeah, I think you're right. Like, he is getting hit with the regret. That's kind of what happened to Daemon too, right? Like, he went there after Blood and Cheese and had to reconcile with the fact that he got a toddler killed. And he went on this journey, and Aemond's journey is going to be different. He's going to get his mommy issues out, presumably with his new person he's interested in, Alice Rivers, which what did you make? So Alice Rivers and Aemond do have a romance in the book. I feel like that's not a huge spoiler because the actors have been teasing it like crazy. But we don't really know how they're going to portray it in the show. How did you feel about the way we kind of got a start to these two characters interacting with each other here?
I'm excited to see it just because I want to see where Alice Rivers is going to take this relationship to not make the same mistakes that happened with Daemon. She thought, okay, show him a couple visions, be able to lightly manipulate him. I'll get Harrenhal. Does not work. How is she going to go above and beyond to really solidify her claim through Aemond?
Yeah, totally. And Aemond is a very different beast than Daemon. Daemon was a late middle-aged man. Like, Daemon doesn't look like whatever he is, 40 or 50, but like he is. Yeah, like, he's a much older dude. He's seen it all. He's not as malleable, I think we can say, as Aemond, who's a young 20s type of character who clearly has these unrequited feelings toward older women, like ball of clay in Alice Rivers' hands. But you also do get like the feeling that there's some genuine intrigue there. I love the scene when he hugs her and then asks her who she is, when she's like talking about how sometimes like the kid who grieves for their mother is the one the mother loved the most. And she answers like, I'm one who was grieved. So like she had a kid at some point, presumably, who either she lost or thinks had lost her. And, that's an interesting layer I didn't expect for her to level with him. So yeah, I liked it too, the start. And, she's covering for him too, because assassins are coming for Aemond. And they're not as easily repelled as Criston, because Rhaenyra offers Harrenhal as a bounty for him, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, that's if I'm a hunter assassin, it's completely worth it. Let me risk everything, go to Harrenhal. If I can find Aemond without the dragon, all bets off. Great, awesome. The only problem is, where is the dragon that we're trying to avoid?
Yeah, Vhagar is missing. So that's the thing we established here in this Aemond section. Vhagar's gone. We don't know where. Alice actually wasn't lying about that to Criston, that Vhagar is missing. We do know that Vhagar's in the Riverlands because I really like that there are a few like threads that run through this episode, even though it has lots of different plot lines. And one of them is, where is Vhagar? Because we have a bunch of people who want an answer to that, right? Like Rhaenyra in King's Landing wants to know. She sends Baela and Adam of Hull out looking. They go to Wendish Town, which is the last place Vhagar was sighted, burning this small settlement in the Riverlands. But Vhagar's not there. Criston is also in the Riverlands. He sees signs Vhagar's around. He sees a footprint. Can't find her. So that's a cool element. I like that, they're going the less is more route. Like, I think just like Rhaenyra Triumphant, this episode had very little dragons in it on screen. I think we only see maybe Sea Smoke and Moondancer in the background in one scene. And even then, like, I'd have to rewatch. I might even be wrong about that.
Yeah. But you know what? I don't think that lessened it any amount. Like,
not at all.
There's dragons somewhere. That I'm 100% good with that.
Yeah, same. I feel like this show almost had a mandate from its first season of like, we need to try to get a dragon or two in every episode, like at least a little bit of a dragon scene. And I feel like they've dialed that back a little bit this season, and it's to their benefit because this episode, I think, is one of the strongest written of the season. Like, there just is no weakling. Like, I had a lot of stuff in previous episodes where I'm like, does this make sense? I'm not sure, but I'm going to go with it. There was nothing like that really for me in this episode. Was there anything like that for you here?
In terms of weakness in the plot, no. No. I think everything made sense for where it was. I think there were a couple scenes, how they were cut together, seemed a little jarring towards the end, cutting between Criston Cole and jumping to King's Landing. I know they're trying to do, but I was like, that didn't really fit together. But in terms of the plot, what they were saying, I'm like, no, everything was tight in there.
Yeah, totally. So kudos to Philippa Goslett, who wrote this episode. It really just chef's kiss of an episode. So Aemond and Alice, we kind of leave them in this really fun situation. So Aemond's like stumbling around the castle shirtless, trying to figure out where he is and what's going on. And, he's in this spooky haunted place. And presumably they're Ironborn, because one of them threatens to make Alice his salt wife. So either they're all Ironborn or just, one or two of them are. They come looking for Aemond. They're not as easily, repelled by Alice's like threats and like witchy sleight of hand and whatever, like the last group. They go to attack her, and Aemond comes to the rescue, fights them off. Love you and Mitchell getting some sword fighting. Like, he's really good at it. He was on The Last Kingdom for a number of seasons. Like, give him these scenes, please. I love that they've done that more this season. And we kind of leave them like they made it through, and they're like on the ground, and Alice Rivers cracks a joke, and they kind of just like look at each other. And like, I don't know. I just felt like they didn't force the romance with them. Like, it just felt like kind of fun and natural. And like, I want to see more of these two together.
Yeah, it feels natural, but it's also that I just keep getting that element of she's trying, like you said earlier, manipulate him, mold him to make
absolutely.
It's like an icky romance. I want to see them together, but not because it's going to be anything good.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think Aemond is too far gone for healthy relationships. Right. Honestly, like, we're 3 seasons into this show. I don't see there's no reality where Aemond like suddenly has a healthy romance and does a heel turn and becomes a good guy or something. Like, like, we need dark, twisty storylines for Aemond. And like, now, like, for the first time in the entire series, like, he's cut off from King's Landing, where he grew up. He spent almost his entire life. It's his base of power. He served as the Prince Regent for half of season 2 and the start of this season. Now he's just like a Targaryen alone, as Maester Aemon said in Game of Thrones. He's a Targaryen alone, doesn't even have his dragon here, trapped in this spooky castle with this witch who clearly wants something from him, but also he's a little attracted to. And yeah, that's it's juicy. It's juicy stuff. Like more, just more House of the Dragon, please.
But in terms of that, him being one of the sons, but a prodigy swordsman, I guess we can kind of talk about Aegon all the way over there in Rook's Rest.
Yes, love it. I love the Aegon stuff.
Yeah, Aegon's trying to find himself. This is the lowest point he's ever been in his life. Him trying convincing Larys, like, hey, we just need to go. I want to get my dragon back. It's like your dragon, in all terms of purpose, is dead. It's lying in the middle of the field, riding away for everyone to see. And he's getting a lot of self-doubt. He tells them, like, hey, nobody my mom didn't love me enough. But I was always the worst swordsman. My dad wouldn't even let me be in tournaments because he didn't want me to embarrass the family. I just never got a good lot in life. And I mean, Larys like really let him have it. Like, how did you feel about Larys? Like, telling him how it is.
Loved it. So Aegon and Larys were my favorite part of this episode, and there was a lot of good stuff this episode. So that is, it is definitely praise to that plot line, because it really stood out to me. I think they're like a classic Game of Thrones duo, the way that they're portrayed, where it's like, it reminds me of Tyrion and Varys on the road in season 5 or something, where it's like, there's the reserved, very thoughtful, very meticulous, scheming character on the road with someone who can't keep their mouth shut and who's constantly getting them into trouble. And here Larys just like gets fed up. Like, the Aegon is just wandering off into the woods. He's heard about Wendish Town and Vhagar, so he's like, I'll go to Wendish Town and look for Aemond and kill him, or I'll go to Harrenhal and kill him. And it's like, Aegon is in no position. He's in no shape to kill Aemond. Like, he's just gonna get him and Larys killed. That's the only thing that could happen. And then he gets into this self-pity spiral, and Larys is just like, I really love this scene for a few reasons. One is how Larys turns it on him, right? Where he's talking about all the advantages Aemond had. He's fluent in High Valyrian, he had the best tutors, whatever. And then Larys is like, you had the best tutors. You were the eldest son. Like, you were the prince of the realm. You had a dragon so beautiful, they named it after the sun. Like, all these things. He's like, and you squandered it, and you were a terrible person while you did it. And yeah, I mean, stuff like that holds more weight coming from a character like Larys, who doesn't do that very often. And I think it really hit Aegon in that moment. And like, Tom Glencarney's acting was just like insane in that scene, where he's got all these physical tics. He's tapping his foot, and like, he stops tapping it when Larys starts confronting him. And like, there's so much subtlety in the performances in that scene. So I loved it for that reason. I also loved how it parallels Aemond. Did you catch that, like, both of these brothers are complaining about the advantages the other one had, while they're like simultaneously haunted over the fact that Aemond betrayed him?
Yeah. I mean, that's like Aegon's right to be disturbed by that. And also, I like, and I'm thinking about it now, how they're kind of a worse version of Varys and Daemon. Like, of course, the parallels between Aemond and Daemon have always been there, but Viserys was also, not the best swordsman. Maybe he wasn't the best at speaking Valyrian, but he was a likable person. He was a good person. That's really all Aegon had to do, was be a decent person, and maybe some of the madness doesn't happen. Maybe your brother likes you a little bit more because you went out there and you did your best. And sometimes that's all you can do. And I really feel like Aegon, like, he never really truly ever in his life, and he had to look at it in his face for the first time. Like, I didn't really try at being a good Targaryen.
Yeah, totally. It is definitely an instance of Viserys didn't really coach Aegon very well. Aegon didn't really rise to the occasion very well. He kind of was overlooked, and he knew he was overlooked, so he said, screw it, and it is a little ironic. I didn't really think about that like, Aemond is a very clear, parallel for Daemon. Like obviously their names are even, basically a play off of each other's. But Aegon really is, out of all of Viserys's kids outside of Rhaenyra, he's probably the most like him, like kind of his biggest crime, aside from like being like an abuser with women and stuff like that, which Viserys was not. There was the issue of him marrying Alicent, and she was much younger, but that's not the same in Westeros, at least.
Yeah.
But Aegon, like when he became king, like he wanted to do a good job. He wanted to be liked. Like those are the same sorts of things Viserys wanted. So like he brought his little son to the small council to coach his heir. Like he was endearing in a way. And there's something really tragic about the idea that Viserys overlooked Aegon, even though he's the closest thing to a mirror probably out of Viserys' children with Alicent that he's got. From that stuff with Aegon and Larys, they go back to Rook's Rest, and Larys has this plan to get a ship from Duskendale to Dragonstone. Aegon finally says yes, and they run into somebody that I didn't expect to see, and I'm curious if you expected, none other than Tywin Lannister, who survived the Battle of the Gullet. Did you think Tywin was going to come back?
I knew he was going to survive. Like, of course, in the books, he's still around, just in a different location. Did I think he was going to come back this way, next to Larys, scheming again with them to put Aegon back in the Iron Throne? No. I thought maybe end of the season, at this point, we would get a glimpse that he's still alive, still somewhere, but we're in the middle of the season. I guess all things are off, and they do got to kind of speed run the plot a little bit. So I'm like, okay, it was a welcome surprise.
Yeah, totally agree. Tywin, so for book readers, obviously we knew Tywin has stuff to do. Them killing Tywin early changes a lot of stuff for the end game of the Dance of the Dragons. But like, it's the sort of thing where like, I don't expect them to adapt most of the things relevant to Tywin, like after the dance. He really, during the Regency era, which is what happens right after the Dance of the Dragons, he's pretty important. I don't think we're going to get any of that. So to me, I was like, well, they decided to kill him off. They wanted to free up another actor, Jefferson Hall. He did his time. I loved seeing him come back. I think it's fun to have a Lannister in the mix. Jason Lannister still pretty damn dead because we saw his head on a spike in the Riverlands, but Tywin's still around. So yeah, that was a really welcome surprise. It almost makes me feel like House of the Dragon knows it's got super precious particular book reader people watching it, and it wants at least a little bit. At least there's just a little bit of a drive. It wants to fuck with them. So it's like they're gonna kill off Tywin and then be like, surprise, Tywin's still here. We can do the book story. They kind of did the same thing with Otto, where they had Otto like disappear, and it's like, where's Otto? And it's like, he's in King's Landing. He's been here the whole time. Here he goes, getting essentially the same death he got in the books, just with the details switched up. Sunfire's going to probably be another one of those where they're playing this long game that Sunfire's dead, but like, they can't really kill off Sunfire because, again, he's crucial to the end of the story. I feel like there are a few things like that where I'm like, Criston Cole's another one, and we're going to talk about that later in this episode, where they set it up. They almost made it seem like Criston's doing the reverse of his book storyline, right? Where he's the one ambushing the Winter Wolves and the Rivermen. And they start this episode that way, but then they flip it. And then Criston's back on his exact same book story. So I think they know that they have people who are like bitching about this stuff online, and they want to mess with them just a little bit. And who better to do that with than a Lannister?
And it's cool how they did it, and they set it up like, hey, like the Greens still have a chance. Like, hey, I got some cell swords with me. What is that, like 5 guys? We're ready to go over the SOs, regroup, and we can come right back. And I'm like, that sounds like a horrible plan.
Totally. Horrible plan. They still don't really have a very good plan, the Greens, which I don't hate, because really the plan should be follow Sunfire wherever Sunfire goes. And right now Sunfire is still seemingly a corpse, even though I guess he's probably like dragon hibernating. Like, he doesn't look that Roddy compared to Meleys, but yeah, they don't really know what they're doing.
You know, reptiles are reptiles. I saw a story of a family burying their turtle underground, losing it for like 20 years, and then when they pull up the cement, all of a sudden the turtle's like, "Hey guys, hey!" Maybe it was like more closer to 10, but still,
That's crazy. What was it
So,
eating all that time? It's like eating like bugs in the ground. That's nuts to me.
what's Sunfire eating all this time?
Yeah, no, that's super fair. Yeah, so then this, my favorite scene, maybe of the whole episode, is what happens right after that, where Tyland and Laris are arguing. They're arguing about what to do, and it's like Aegon's not even there. They're just ignoring him. Like Laris is like, finally, I have someone competent to talk to again. Like, so they're making plans, and the local like tough who runs Rook's Rest, the local lord of Rook's Rest, he gets word from one of his spies that it seems like these guys might be nobles. He sneaks up on Aegon and finds his crown. And he confronts him, and he confronts him in a way where it's like he expects to have Aegon at his mercy. Like Aegon is screwed. And he's like, Gregor, is it? Because that's the alias they gave him. And Aegon just snaps and murders this dude efficiently and quietly. And he gets the line, that my favorite line maybe of the entire show for him, which is, "You can call me your grace," as he's murdering this dude. Like, I wasn't Team Green before, but man, do I feel like I might be now.
We all gotta start wearing matching green shirts because they're it. He just wanted to, like you said, have some agency in his story. I need to do something to feel involved. Like everyone's always plotting around him, quote unquote, for him. But like, when does he just get to do something? He got to kill a couple of episodes ago against one of those Triarchy pirates that made it to shore, and now he's got another one. Now it feels like he's a real soldier. Like his brother may have killed 4 people, and he always got one this episode too. He's back on top.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. I didn't really think about that. It's, it's not a bloodless episode for the eldest 2 Targaryen brothers here. But yeah, good stuff here. And so next I want to jump to another Targaryen brother, because this episode is almost kind of historic for being the first episode of the entire show to really feature all 4 of Alicent and King Viserys' kids, because Daeron wasn't in the show before this season. There's only one other episode that had all 4 of them. It was the season premiere, and Daeron's in that for like a second, and you don't know it's Daeron because they did the whole fake Daeron thing. But here we get a scene of him in Tumbleton with Aemond, and Aemond is hatching plots. He's having Gold Cloaks assassinated in King's Landing, and he's still, tutoring Daeron and talking about his plan to make Daeron king, minting coins with Daeron's face on them, and they play Savas, which I loved, which is from the books that didn't make it into the main Game of Thrones, the chess sort of game they're playing. What'd you make of this scene? Did it change your opinion on Aemond and Daeron at all from last episode?
You could definitely see how Daeron has probably his whole life been tiptoeing around Aemond. He seems like he's a man, a temper. Do I know if he's been, physically beaten? He probably never lay a hand on the prince, but he's emotionally put him in his place, so he knows, like, you need to respect me when I'm in the room, even though, like, especially when we're by ourselves. Like, hey, in front of everyone else, I'll bow to you. I'll call you prince, but as long as you know you're still under me. And for him to try to give that lesson to young Daeron, all he did was beat him in Sci-fi. That's all he did, and he just flipped out for a second. And that was a great connection to that scene with Criston Cole and Gwen. Yeah. He was bringing up how Aemond has always had a temper, and he would let him win at things because he couldn't handle losing. And that just thoroughly shows someone that is just not in control of themselves and can't handle a loss.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, this whole time all we've seen is Aemond kind of win. Even when he bent the knee, he was still in control of the situation, still winning. And it just makes me interested in how he's going to deal, if he's going to be in a situation when he's not in control. How is he going to handle that?
Yeah, and that's going to happen. Rhaenyra is going to dump a bunch of dragon poop in the middle of Tumbleton. It's going to smell real bad because that's the one thing she knows. He has a video game boss weakness, which is he can't stand stinky stuff. And somehow that's going to make him lose control during a battle of Dumbleton. But the control is so interesting because Aemond struggles with it. And he also clearly really values it because one of the few times we've seen him really lose control was last episode when he got the letter saying Aemond wasn't coming. And that was like, oh shit, there's nothing he can do to change that Aemond isn't coming. He can't strong arm that back into the shape he wants. So he's going to have to do something totally different. And he loses it. And then he immediately like fixes his hair and sits back down, reasserts control. But I really liked this scene with Daeron. So there are a few parts of it that I really like, but the him freaking out because he loses at Savas. I love one that Daeron beats him with the dragon as he's talking about how the dragons are, an unfair advantage and all this stuff. Daeron sees a move that Aemond hadn't thought of and moves his dragon there and wins. And Aemond flips out. And you're right, there is like this emotionally abusive element to their relationship. Like you can tell Daeron's used to walking on eggshells and downplaying the Targaryen side of his lineage because Aemond doesn't like it, and Aemond is his father figure. So when he references the High Tower history as being dry, Aemond is like, what do you mean by that? And really driving these things home. But after he flips out, Aemond stops and pats Daeron on the shoulder and says, don't ever apologize for victory. And I thought that was a really beautiful touch to show that like this isn't just straight abuse. Like Aemond genuinely like I think does care about Daeron, and like in this scene, like he is imparting a valuable lesson. Like don't apologize for winning, even if I'm being, as Gawain put it, like a thin-skinned twat or whatever he called Aemond. Like even if I'm freaking out, like don't apologize that you beat me. I didn't really love the dynamic between Aemond and Daeron last episode. Because I didn't expect it. Felt like it came out of nowhere a little bit, and it was a little more heavy-handed. Here, though, I'm now along for the ride. Like I want to see what they're doing with these characters. They're both giving like brilliant performances, and if they can keep the writing as interesting as it was here, like it could be really, really cool, I think.
And I do want to, for the pro Aemond side, I don't think that history was dry. It's always good to hear the characters in universe talk about the history. I'm just there sad. I'm like, oh, I thought that was pretty interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I loved that they had the Yellow Toad of Dorne, Miriam Martell, getting the shout out here. So for viewers or listeners who may not be quite as entrenched in this stuff, Miriam Martell is essentially the one person who beat Aegon the Conqueror. When Aegon conquered the Seven Kingdoms, he sent his sister Rhaenys down to conquer Dorne, and she failed because of the reasons Aemond said in this episode. And then the part Aemond left out, she goes back like years later to try again to conquer Dorne, and they kill her dragon and seemingly kill her too. So that's like the big casualty of Aegon's reign, is trying to conquer Dorne and just getting outfoxed over and over again.
You probably don't want to bring that part up to a Targaryen. Maybe leave that one.
Yeah, I mean, well, Daeron doesn't have the temperament of Aemond, so Aemond might bring it up just to rub the salt in the wounds, If
they tell me to go out and fly a dragon, this is how they die. Good luck.
Yeah, but that sort of scene, like I like more of those, please. That really reminded me. Again, there were so many things about this that reminded me of like classic Thrones, and I say classic Thrones, I mean like the earlier seasons especially, and like the sort of thing they did where they would insert the history and like. They didn't need to insert it, like, but it was cool world building, and they could use it to like make the conversations more interesting. And they really did that here. So yeah, I totally geeked out at the Yellow Toad of Dorne reference. I was like, yes, love this.
Yes,
Any other stuff you want to talk about? So we've talked about Daeron, Aegon, Aemond. We haven't talked about the two big locations this episode, which we're going to get to next, which are Criston's doomed march through the Riverlands and King's Landing. Anything else you want to talk about before we dive into those gigantic ones?
No, I'm ready to dive in. I got my life vest on. Let's go.
Okay, let's talk about Criston first, because he's kind of got this siloed plot line where he's essentially trapped in the Riverlands. They decide, he made this decision. He's going to hassle the army that is marching south, led by Oscar Tully and Roddy the Ruin. And he's going to slow them down and whittle away their forces until basically he and all his men are dead. But he doesn't have another way out, really. Not easily. Although I guess we see Gwaine leave at the end, so like he probably coulda. Let's start with Roddy, because we do get, thankfully, at least one scene with Roddy the Ruin and Oscar Tully, who I feel like have been so underutilized. Any thoughts on that scene?
I was just, what?
Episode?
I had the same feeling. I'm like, man, we really haven't seen them at all. Like, shout out to us getting all that Tully action in season 2. That's probably one of the highlights from season 2. And I'm like, wow, I was good seeing them, and I was happy we did. But I'm like, all right, I thought we were gonna see them maybe a little more in this episode, and that was really it.
Yeah.
But it was good seeing how, like they said, Criston Cole and his army, they are winning. They aren't winning, but they're hassling us. They're making it hard. What if we just make it harder for them in reverse? We know where they know we're going, so we can go there first. Yeah. It's like he knows, I know, everyone knows. So it's definitely interesting how they flesh out Criston Cole's army and bait them into essentially going up to the river and the bridge being destroyed. So it was a smart move on their end.
Yeah, totally. I like that, Oscar Tully proven his mettle here again, because Roddy just wants to go out and hunt Criston down. Yeah. And Oscar's like, why don't we beat him at his own game? This is our turf. Criston's waging this guerrilla war on the Rivermen's turf. Like, they know the land better. They know the quirks of the land better. There's no question that once they decide to get the one up on him, they're going to get the one up on him. And they do. So yeah, I like that we got this scene. I had the same reaction. I was like, that's the only scene. Okay. Presumably we're going to see a lot more of them in the final few episodes, especially episode 6, because we kind of leave Criston on this cliffhanger where presumably it doesn't seem likely Criston will make it out of episode 6 alive. I think we can safely say by the end of this, that's just a feeling that they are putting across. This is the final march for Criston Cole, and he just wants to die his own man, essentially, not serving the Greens or the Blacks or anybody else.
I feel like that's a little cop out on his end, like, oh, I want to die, not serving them, but you are still serving them. Now, if you would have took Gwaine's offer and he's like, hey, you can go to the old town, you can live your life out there, you can be as part of our family, and he's like, no, I want to go out my way by still doing the thing that helps the team green. It's like, you're still involved in the war.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like he has a personal grudge against the Tullys or Roderick Dustin, or any of them. Like, he doesn't care about them. They don't really care about him except how he affects their army. But because this is the battle he's chosen, it's the battle in front of him. And he does remind us at the end, he's the best fighter in Westeros. God, and this is how he wants to go out. Do you agree with that?
I mean, Jon Snow's not alive right now, so
Yeah, I mean, Oberyn Martell, the Mountain, Gregor Clegane, Jaime Lannister, they're not around. But is Criston the best in this time period, in your opinion?
You know what? He would be one of the best.
Yeah.
It's always hard to say who's the best if you're all the way in King's Landing and there's a fighter like Roddy the Ruin all the way up in the north. You got people in Westerland. So he was the reason he became one of the Kingsguard because he was one of the best fighters in his region.
Yeah, totally. He beat Daemon in single combat. That's how he joined the Kingsguard. That's the first thing we see him do in the show is beat Daemon in a tournament. And yeah, so it is whether he is the best, because I think that's always the obvious point when someone says something like this and they're, it's like, are you better than Roddy the Ruin? That's an old dude. He's killed a lot of people. Like, I don't know if I would bet on you. Or like, who knows who's in, well, I guess Doran isn't part of the realm at this point. But yeah, there's that question. But Criston, like you said, he's certainly one of the best. He wants a warrior's death at this point, and he's just tired. And this whole story, this episode is about him getting tireder, because I love that they reversed it, and then he's trapped and he's on the run, essentially trying to catch them up. They hobble their horses with a bunch of traps. The scene where he kills a horse was pretty brutal. The animal lovers all cringed, I'm sure, including myself. But then they're just trudging through the muck, trying to catch up, and it's just hopeless. There's no chance they're going to catch up. And there's whispers of people thinking about deserting too, but nobody really did. I'm a little worried going into the next episode that things might get even worse for Criston before the end.
Does it count if Gwaine deserts because he is a nobleman? Is it deserting, or am I honorably going to my family over there?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question. I feel like he's honorably deserting. I don't think it's the same as because I think desertion implies you went against orders, and I don't think Criston would give Gwaine the order to stay.
To die with me.
Yeah, Gwaine is his equal, and I do really like that. Even though Gwaine is highborn, he's got the highborn, shades on, that he acts like they're the same, but he can't fully appreciate how different Criston's life has been. But when they're sitting talking in that final conversation, which is might be one of my favorite performance-wise scenes for both of those two actors in the show, I think. That last conversation where Gwaine and Criston just level with each other as two knights on this really awful, desperate journey, and then they go their own way. Criston gives this speech trying to rally the men, but it's everyone's sad. Everyone's at the end of their rope. Are you really motivating anyone? And then Gwaine just goes. It's appropriately bleak, I feel for where we are here.
The episode of good speeches that end horribly. Yeah.
So do you think Criston is going out next episode?
If it's not the next episode, it's whenever he meets this forest, because it's a bad plan. He's like, hey, we're going to get on rafts. We're going to go down the waters. Whoever he runs into, let it be next episode. Let it be the episode after that. I think he's going to get the fight he's looking for.
Yeah, I think so too. I think a big question I have is whether they'll give him the fight. They give a very clear nod here. Criston says he wants songs to be written about him. He wants to have such a glorious end. They write songs about him. And this is a very clear nod. Without spoiling exactly what happens in the book, Criston is essentially told, you're not going to get the end you want. We're going to give you such a lame one that no one will write songs about you. It's kind of where Criston's story ends up. And I don't know if the show is going to go that route, because we've seen some scenes in trailers of Criston fighting in some sort of battle. So I do almost wonder if they're going to give him a better, a more glorious ending than he got in the book, where how ignoble it was kind of the point.
No, I think it's going to be ignoble. It's not going to be the ending he wants, because that's what
I hope so. I hope you're right.
That's his story.
Yeah. And Criston has done a lot of bad stuff, and a lot of this, it's not really his fault, the Dance of the Dragons, but he's in the mix. He put the crown on Aegon's head, even though he only was following orders and whatever. He took Rook's Rest, all these things. He doesn't really deserve a glorious ending, even though he's become probably one of the more compelling stories. I think Criston's so interesting because everyone hates Criston, right? For the first 2 seasons of this show, he was the most reviled character, to the point where I'm pretty sure Fabian Frankel had to turn comments off on his Instagram because people were just harassing him so much. And here now, at this late point in his story, I think he's one of the more interesting characters. I don't know. I've come around to loving Criston. When he comes on, I'm like, great, more Criston stuff.
Yeah, just a sad man with a gray cloak and a sword.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle whatever his last fight's going to be.
Yeah. There's something uh riveting about people brooding in Westeros. It almost reminds me of Jon Snow a little bit, like the dark version of Jon Snow, like because he's just there's no happiness to be found in Criston Cole at this point in the story, just like that was kind of the case for Jon for a few seasons at his lowest. A lot of people kind of at their lowest are spiraling toward their lowest in this episode. Let's move to King's Landing for the end of our pod here. So Rhaenyra is another one who is, if I don't think she's at her lowest yet. I think she's got a ways to go, quite a ways to go still, but she's getting there. She's just making one bad choice after another. And she's fully in her paranoia spiral, talking about people coming for them from the shadows and plots and stuff. I'm pleasantly surprised by how well the show is committed to this, because this is Rhaenyra's book storyline, and as painful as it is, this is just what needs to happen to her.
Yeah.
For the story to be even remotely the same as what it George R. R. Martin wrote. Did you think they were going to commit this fully to it this early?
No. I honestly, I didn't think they were going to commit to that at all. I thought they I thought they were going to have it be a series of unfortunate events, and it was just things happening that she had no control over. It was no decision that she made. So I thought it was just, we're going to be like, oh, okay, nothing she could have done could have saved it. Is there really anything she could do now? Not really, but at least she's making a choice one way or another to help drive the plot, even if it's driving the plot driving the train into a brick wall.
Yeah, totally. I agree. I kind of, House of the Dragon has had a trend of people are miscommunicating, things are happening by accident. Aemond didn't mean to kill Lucerys. Alicent didn't mean to coup. Rhaenyra's just messing up. She's just head down. She's just woefully unprepared for the job. And it's interesting how they paralleled her with Aegon, who was also woefully underprepared for the job. But the difference there is Aegon had a bunch of people who essentially wouldn't let him rule, who were ruling instead of him, who were really experienced. Like Otto, experienced. Rhaenyra doesn't want to listen to anybody. And we see that here. The first time we see it is Daemon tells her gold cloaks are getting killed, and she tries to brush it off. She's like, Vhagar is the threat. Vhagar burned Wendish Town. We need to go. Like, just happy to. Not happy to, but she just doesn't think it's a priority. And Daemon undermines her in front of her small council. And she kind of confronts him about it, and he just goes off to do his thing. Do you think he was wrong to undermine her in front of everyone?
Yes, that wasn't the moment to do it. She already has such a loose control over the city. Like you were saying, there are gold cloaks being killed. The people are hungry. Everyone's upset. She only has what seems like a quarter of the Seven Kingdoms really on her side, and this small council she needs to be control of. And for him to just make that one remark, it was completely unnecessary, and it could have waited. It was nothing that needed to be said in that moment.
Yeah, totally. At the same time, that's Daemon Targaryen. He would have done this exact same sort of thing to her father, King Viserys, when he was the ruler. And that's what you get when you have Daemon on your small council. Like, full stop. That's what you have to deal with. If he thinks you're being an idiot, he's going to tell you and walk out of the room and go do what he thinks he needs to do. And in this instance, he's right. So maybe he shouldn't have undermined her in front of everyone, but he's not wrong. And that kind of gets driven home again and again this episode, where he saw a problem. And, really for me, it's like, why the hell is Rhaenyra not listening to Daemon? Like, he was doing this stuff. He formed the freaking gold cloaks. Like, he was doing this stuff when she was a teenager. who had no responsibilities. So to just disregard all that experience, and while it is still wartime, like I like that Rhaenyra gets painfully reminded this episode that like she's still beset on multiple fronts. She's got Ormond doing stuff. She's got Criston Cole hounding the army in the Riverlands. Aegon's missing. Vhagar's burning villages seemingly randomly, and she assumes that Aemond is with Vhagar. But yeah, she just ignores Daemon's advice. And so the Gold Cloak conspiracy. Yes. What did you make of that? And Ormond's plan here.
That was awesome. And it made me think of how him and Otto Hightower were communicating. Yeah, that was one of the first things I thought of, because I'm like, wow, why would Otto be sending all this communication to Ormond but never get anything back? Like, it was just coming through a secret way in the town. So to see how he laid it on, relaying that information to his spies in the city, just to cause mayhem. Let's kill some Gold Cloak. Let's weaken the morale of the soldiers that are supposed to protect the city. It was a genius plan, and honestly, I didn't see it ending with all probably looks like majority of the captains being killed. Like, yeah, it makes you think, how many people do they have are really on Team Green's side? Like, how many people are under Ormond's control, are still listening to Larys or on his last orders? Like, how many of them are there? There are rats in King's Landing right now.
Yeah, totally. I think that one of the takeaways here is Ormond didn't just do this, right? Like, Rhaenyra hasn't been ruling King's Landing that long. Like, it's been a couple weeks at most, like a week or two. That's not enough time for him to have established the sort of network he's probably got there to take out the entire, what seemed like the entire leadership structure of the Gold Cloaks in that final scene, which, again, like, this is the sort of stuff that made this just feel like, again, like classic, good old-fashioned Game of Thrones to me, even though this wasn't like a barn burner of an episode. Like, it still really had like the tight political maneuverings, the shocking deaths. Like, you know, there were murders of Gold Cloaks. Rhaenyra does kind of have to confront it eventually. Daemon goes to the Sept. We get a great scene there in High Valyrian where I loved that scene, and like kind of his just disappointment with her in that scene. Like, he scoffs that she's even in there, like, and you know, all this time you still just don't know who you are. Like, you're a dragon and you're trying to rule like a sheep. Yeah,
it's like that one last bit of the symbols of power, the trappings of power, and she just wants it so bad. Like, I want the Faith of the Seven, I want the High Septon to just anoint me and to just give me that last bit of legitimacy. It's like, you have the dragons, you have the Iron Throne, like, that's perfect. Go use that. Take over. Like, that should be all you need. You don't need to be bending to knee in Temple right now.
Yeah, especially not while the war is still on. I think Rhaenyra really wanted to put the cart before the horse. She got King's Landing. She won. She's the queen now. But like, she still got tons of enemies across probably like half the realm. And like, you know, that's where really being obsessed with getting those trappings of legitimacy becomes a huge danger, because what she needs to be focusing on, and what Daemon's trying to get her to focus on here, is like the literal danger in front of her, instead of this nebulous idea that she's doing things that will undermine her legitimacy or make her look bad. It's the same sort of thing as she did with Corlys Velaryon, where she refused to legitimize Alan and Adam, and like put herself at odds with her hand of the queen, who she really needs right then, because she's worried about looking bad. But like, half the realm isn't even obeying her anyway yet. Like, who cares who you look bad to? Like, you need that guy. So just bad prioritizing across the board. But yeah, that final scene with the Gold Cloaks really shocked me. And RIP to Luther Largent, who, like, I expected him to stick around a lot longer. He's dead now.
Yeah, he does make it a little longer in the book. So for book readers, everybody was like, oh, he's out right now. I was surprised. I had to go double check. I'm like, wait a minute. This is supposed to be the end of him. But what's going to happen with the Gold Cloaks? Like, Daemon already said, like, hey, Luther already told Daemon, like, a lot of these people weren't around when you formed the gold cloaks. They were babes. They were in their swaddling clothes when you did this. They don't have that same affinity to you. So shout out to Daemon for giving that rousing speech to get everyone
Yeah.
hyped. But a lot of people in that room were those same captains that, they got sent to the upper room. So who's going to be in charge?
Yeah, totally. That, and presumably a lot of the leadership structure were those older people who just all got killed. And the younger people, like, they haven't been getting wages because Rhaenyra wanted to give it as alms to the small folk instead of paying her city watch. So yeah, I feel like we could be seeing some real unrest in King's Landing sooner rather than later as we get toward the end of this season. I don't think we're going to see, Rhaenyra uprooted from the Iron Throne in season 3 or anything like that. But man, things are not going to be in a great place for her as we speed toward the end of this season. And this episode really feels like it, and feels like Aemond has a role to play there. He's not just sitting in Tumbleton. Like, he's messing things up for her where she is, even more than she's messing them up for herself. Another thing we need to talk about, way that she messed it up. Sabitha Frey is now on her small council. Shout out, Sabitha. Nice to see you here. And she's mad because Jace promised the Freys Harrenhal for helping in the war and helping get the Northerners across the twins. And then Rhaenyra just like casually offers Harrenhal up as a bounty for Aemond's head. Mistake?
I think there were mistakes on Jason's side, and there were mistakes on Rhaenyra's side.
Yeah, that's fair.
Jace wasn't in the authority to grant such a large, important castle to House Frey. Ill House Frey anyway. But no, like, you don't get Harrenhal for letting that army through. You let the army through, and you will get some concessions. You get a seat on the small council, but you shouldn't be able to get Harrenhal. And then Rhaenyra just giving it to anyone who's able to kill Vhagar. And maybe you're just doing that to maybe help flush out Aemond and Vhagar, but that's not the move. Because if it works, you're just going to give it to some random soul sword. The castle is too important for that. Like, for anyone to just have it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's what we were chuckling about when Alice Rivers said she wanted Harrenhal, was like, you can't just give out this extremely important holdfast to a random person. Like, the whole realm is going to want to know what the hell you were thinking if you do that. And for Rhaenyra to then essentially turn around and do that by offering it as a bounty, it's like she was just so concerned with appearances and then did this kind of dumb thing. And then she does another mistake, this time as a mother. Joffrey, her youngest son, gets there. She doesn't even say hi.
Yeah. You would think the first thing you do, let me make sure my son's safe. Let me go take care of him. Let me see him. And like, she just keeps putting it off. And then you see him, it's nighttime. He's laid up in the bed, and I want to call it the maid, the handmaid, until like he tried his best to stay up for you, and it just he tuckered out.
Yeah, totally. It's the priorities, right? Because this is not only you not seeing your son, which maybe she's a little nervous about. It's also you ignoring your heir who you summoned here, to learn from you how to be a good ruler. Rhaenyra, it's Rhaenyra's carnival of mistakes here in King's Landing, and it's only going to get worse, I think, before it gets better. Being really brilliantly acted by Emma Darcy. I especially loved the Valyrian scene where Rhaenyra's just going off about the schemes surrounding her, but it's going to be hard to watch, I think.
Yeah, a lot of rats in the Red Keep, and I saw the cats back there too. So I appreciate us seeing how the cats got into the castle.
Yeah, shout out to the cats. Thank you, Alan of Hull, for keeping the cat storyline alive, bringing some life to the Red Keep. There's one other very brief scene I want to mention before we head into our final little storyline here about Alicent and Helaena, and that is the bit we get with Baela Targaryen and Adam of Hull. They've been scouting, looking for Vhagar. Baela's not really sleeping very well, but they decide to go out searching for Vhagar after she torched Wendish Town. Baela kind of talks about how she has no future left. How did you feel about this scene? We haven't had a lot of stuff like this for Baela in the show yet.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be different for Baela because, traditionally in Westeros, she's a princess of the realm. You're just going to get married off, sent off, and that's it. She had the opportunity to not just get married off to some random small lord, but to the prince who was presumably going to be next in line to sit the Iron Throne. She was going to be queen consort of the Seven Kingdoms, and now that's gone. And she's not even the good graces of the ruling queen. Supposedly, her mother-in-law is looking past her, not even wanting to look her in the eye. And it's like, and that's bad on Rhaenyra. It's like, I know you want to kind of blame her for what Jace did, but it was Jace's decision. Don't hold that over Baela.
Yeah, totally. It totally was Jace's decision. He convinced Baela to go with her. Baela didn't give the order to lock you in the room. Granted, she didn't unlock you from the room, but it's still important. It's also her daughter. Forget mother-in-law. That's Daemon's daughter. And yeah, I did like, Baela kind of having this admission of, I wanted to go to the battle and be a hero and stuff like this. Baela is a character I want more screen time for, so I will gladly take any crumbs we get. Give me more Baela Targaryen. So last storyline here of the episode. This has been a long episode because it was a packed episode of House of the Dragon. Alicent and Helaena. We know Helena's pregnant now, presumably with Aegon's kid. Presumably that's Maelor, the kid they were going to cut from the show before George R.R. Martin got real mad about it, and they probably realized, hey, maybe we actually need that kid in there somewhere. Alicent wants Helaena to get rid of this baby. Helaena won't do it because she's already lost a kid, and it was horrible for her. How did you? What were your thoughts on this plot line?
Would it be smart to unfortunately get rid of the kid? Yes, because they will be used as a political tool. If it is a boy, if it is Maelor, Prince Maelor that'll be born, we know, and especially if they're going to be under the control of Rhaenyra, what kind of life is that? They're going to be a prisoner for their entire life. There's nowhere they can go, probably till they're old enough to join the Night's Watch. I liked that they, kind of forced Alicent to see a mother who didn't want to let her child go, didn't want them to be sent away, like Alicent did to her youngest son, Daeron. You did send him away to Old Town. So this is kind of the reverse. She was like, hey, we're going to run away and leave Jaehaera. That was one of her plans she had. And Helaena was like, no, I'm not leaving my child. I'm staying with them at all costs.
Yeah, it's kind of like this cycle of bad parenting where for Alicent, she's willing to make those sorts of sacrifices. And for Helaena, it's borderline unthinkable to do that. And by the end of the episode, she's basically forced to, right? I don't think Jaehaera's with them when they go into the tunnels. It is bad for her. Good episode for Fia Sabin, who plays Helaena. I thought she had some of her strongest scenes of the season. I also loved that we finally got a mention of Jaehaerys getting killed by blood and cheese when Alicent tries to talk to her about the tunnels in Aemond's room, and Helena's like, you mean the ones they used when they came to kill my boy? Great choice to include that. I've been waiting for somebody to mention that happened.
Remember your son and grandson. But did you also see the part where she was trying to convince him to let her go outside at night so she can look at the moon?
Yeah, and they said, Alicent was like, the window will have to do, and she's like, I don't want to be by the window. They're foreshadowing book readers know, show watchers, we won't spoil it for you, even though you may have had it spoiled for you already because it's such a well-known thing that something will happen with Helaena and a window, presumably at some point.
But I also want to think about the window or her just looking at the moon, because when we saw Daemon have that vision in the previous episode, I mean previous season, she was outside. I think she was staring up at the night sky. Was there a moon up there?
Hmm.
I can't recall. Did she want to be out there to look at the moon, to do some crazy magic? To maybe she is kind of seeing what's happening to Aemond at Harrenhal right now.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair question. She did have a moment, if I recall, in this episode where she basically says like Aemond is, she said like burning from the inside or something like that. She had
Yeah.
a vision moment for Aemond in this episode. And more prophecy stuff for Helaena is always welcome. I think they've done a good job of including that. The most interesting thing about this whole storyline to me is, so Alicent doesn't know who she can trust, right? She is under Rhaenyra's thumb. She's been a prisoner for a couple of weeks. She gets the moon tea from Orwyle, and Orwyle's like, I really can't help you anymore because I'm under scrutiny, and like we've always been friends, but like I'll get killed if I get caught.
Yeah.
Mysaria catches them when they try to escape the first time and go to Aemon's room, and Alicent tries to convince her not to tell Rhaenyra by leaning into this idea that Rhaenyra is going to get shakier as she tries to rule, and Mysaria used to be canny enough to play all sides. Do you think that is going to work? Do you think Mysaria will keep this secret?
I think she'll keep this secret because it doesn't hurt anyone for Rhaenyra not to know right now.
Like, yeah, I mean,
right?
Except that now they're missing.
Well, did she let them keep going? I thought they had to go back to the room.
They did.
Yeah,
they did. So here's what I worry: Mysaria doesn't tell Rhaenyra to play, her own game. Then Alicent and Helaena get trapped in the tunnels. Rhaenyra finds out they're missing, gets upset, and Mysaria escape once, or I could just see something like that feeding into Rhaenyra's paranoia a little bit, because she's looking for things to blame without a whole lot of reason. But Mysaria is probably sharp enough that she'll navigate it just fine.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're gonna see the White Worm in action in that next episode. How she's gonna handle certain information. What does she deem as important to divulge in these small council meetings, which have become a lot more interesting since Torrin Manderly and Sabitha Frey have joined.
Totally. Yeah, the small council is feeling a lot more lively now. I'm very excited to see them in the coming weeks and next episode. But yeah, this was a good one for Mysaria too. Finally feeling like she's doing some manipulations and she really knows what's up, instead of mostly advising Rhaenyra to give all their money away to the needy of King's Landing, which we've seen here. Getting the food from the nobles probably was fine for Rhaenyra to do, but not paying the gold cloaks, I think we will see, was a mistake, because now they have no leaders. They're all getting murdered. Why the hell would they keep putting their lives on the line? And they're not even getting paid.
Yeah, getting murdered for free. Like, my family doesn't have any money now. Okay.
They're getting murdered and they're hungry still. So we'll see what happens there. But for Helaena and Alicent, they are trapped in Maegor the Cruel's tunnels beneath the Red Keep. And we'll see what happens if they get out, if they get caught, where we go from here. Just one of many great developments this episode, which we have talked about for a very long time. So, Mark, any final thoughts about episode 5 of House of the Dragon season 3?
I'm enjoying how we're slowly seeing King's Landing just come apart from the money being separated, from the famine going on, from the people defending the city. Now they're being killed in the street. The scenes around Rhaenyra in her capital cities just slowly being destroyed, and I'm enjoying how they're doing it.
Yeah, same. I think that was probably one of the biggest question marks I had going into this season was, will they have the guts to really have Rhaenyra have a full-on dark spiral arc where she's just a bad ruler and things go out of control, and King's Landing, like you said, like it has to get to the point where the small folk have enough, where people don't trust Rhaenyra anymore. And like, I didn't know if they, like we said, like they've done so many things where it's like, it's all a misunderstanding. I worried they would do that here. And I'm glad that they're not. Rhaenyra is making a lot of mistakes. She's kind of proving that maybe she's not 100% fit to rule, which is sad. but it's also the story we're watching here. Everyone's been so obsessed with who should rule that they weren't really preparing to rule.
Yeah.
So yeah, between that and the Riverland stuff and Aegon and Aemond and Daeron, this was just an outstanding episode of House of the Dragon season 3. I think if they can keep this level going, we're in for a really great ride the rest of the season.
Keep these thick episodes coming at us.
Yes. And as they air, viewers, listeners, friends, make sure that you hit like and subscribe on this video and come back for more episodes of the podcast if you enjoyed, because we are going to be covering these in depth as they drop each week. And episode 6, a lot of the cast members are saying it's their favorite of the season. So stuff's going to go down next week and we are going to probably have a lot of opinions about it. So find us, Take the Black, on your podcast platform of choice. Like, subscribe, Spotify, Apple Music, all those sorts of places. You can find articles about the show on winteriscoming.net. We write about House of the Dragon and other fantasy and sci-fi stuff basically every single day. And Mark, where can the people find you between podcast episodes?
Yeah, if you want to see some awesome content, come over to TikTok. It's house_of_Nettles, House of Nettles. I'm over on TikTok. If you see this space, in the right place, and also on Instagram and YouTube as well.
Yes, excellent. So for all of you watching, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week in Westeros.